All right, cool. What up, gang? Happy Wednesday. Sorry I'm late. I had to ran over time over on TikTok and then had to put the babies to sleep, change diapers, do the dad duties. But happy Wednesday. The name is Joe Tang, Cup of Joe. You're watching episode number 25. I have the epic voice guy in the backstage. He's gonna be my guest for today. But give me 1 second. Let me figure out something real quick. Hold on. For everybody on YouTube that has been leaving me comments, I see you. Like I said, I've been on the move, so sorry I have not been addressing you guys. But MG, D's Nugs, Jen, shout out to all you guys over from TikTok. Much love back to you guys. Let's see if John Bailey is here. Cool. John.
Yo.
Good morning, my man.
Good morning. It is really, it's morning. All right.
Hey,
I don't get up at 6 o'clock for just anybody, my friend.
Hey, look. First of all, let me just make sure I let you know how much I appreciate the fact that you're on West Coast time, right?
Yeah.
So it's 7 o'clock for John. I literally hit him up last night and was like, yo, do you want to be on my show? And he was like, I'll set the alarm, and here he is. So you're a good guy for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I didn't make it to the alarm. I don't really sleep when I have to be up early. I'm afraid I'll oversleep and miss everything. So I ended up just not sleeping very well last night. Yeah. It's all good, brother.
Man, thanks. Well, I hope we have I know we're gonna have a good conversation, but I really do hope that you find this to be a valuable use of your time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick for the audience, please introduce yourself. Let them know, because you're up to a lot, man. You're up to a lot, and I'm still trying to get familiar with your brand. But if you could please let people know who you are and what you do.
Sure, man. I'll try to give a really brief version of this. I was a nerdy kid growing up. Loved pop culture stuff, and a big Transformers fan. When I first heard the voice of Optimus Prime as a kid, I kind of wanted to do that one day. I wasn't sure what it was, but I was like, that was really cool. I'd love to be able to do that. And growing up, I started doing impressions, kind of as a competition with my mom to who could do a better, Muppet voices and whatever. And then as a teenager, the internet came around and we started finding out who did the voices for what. After I got married, my wife she was back when MySpace first came out. She wanted us to do the social media thing and pop-up ad back before they were all blocked. For a local studio popped up, and she's like, look, they do voiceover. And she knew that I did impressions and stuff from when I was dating her, and was trying to impress her family, make them laugh. Did a lot of political, I think George Bush or Clinton was the ones I was doing impressions of back then. And she's like, oh, you're so good at voices, you should give them a shot. And I'm like, it's a stupid pipe dream. I was never going to do it for real. I didn't even know Memphis had anything like that. And she said, it says that this company's only 15 minutes away and they represent like 500 people that do voiceover. And I'm like, really? She's like, the worst they can do is say no. What do you got to lose? And I'm like, that's a good point. So I called them up and I tried out for them, and they were really impressed. And for a long time, it was just something I did as a little extra, side work during the daytime. I worked like really late shift, like 3 to midnight. And then the economy collapsed, and my job was one of the ones that got hit, and they went bankrupt. And out of the bankruptcy, I was laid off. So we had a little bit of severance package. We had a little bit of a 401k that I cashed out just to get by unemployment. So we were broke. We were getting government cheese, the whole shebang. And she said, well, and you have to understand, like I was booking maybe one to three jobs a month, which is not enough to support a whole family, especially when you had, at the time, I think we had two kids or three.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't. She's like, well, why don't we try the voiceover thing full time? Because you've only ever been able to do it part time. I'm like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And those first couple of years were pretty rough. We lived paycheck to paycheck. We borrowed a lot. We got loans on our van and anything we could do to get by. And then the following February, it's kind of funny because my very first gig was on February 12th, and then the following February, a guy who did movie trailers out here in Los Angeles found me on the internet, and he's like, I think you have a really good knowledge of who these. Nobody even knows these guys' names, and you know who these guys' names are, and you can sound like most of them, and that's really cool. Yeah, I think you have a lot of raw talent. We'd like to try you out on some stuff. And they got me booked on real movie trailers, and I saw more money than I used to see in 2 or 3 weeks in one paycheck for 5 to 10 minutes of work. And I was like, what? People make this kind of money? Because I've been doing, non-union commercial stuff that was only a couple $100 here and there. And I was just not prepared for those kind of numbers. And he said, hey, I think you've got a lot of raw talent that we'd like to work with. Would you mind if I wrote up a contract and I would manage you? He said, I'm not a manager. I don't normally do this kind of thing, but I see a lot of potential in you. And I'm like, yeah. And he did. He got me booked on a couple of 100 movie trailers in that first year and a half or so.
Wow.
And then the people who make the Honest Trailers on YouTube, their current voice, who had done about 12 videos or 13 or so, they used to do them like once a month or something. And he was in active military service and the reserves, and they got called into active duty, and they needed to find another voice for it. And they sent me links. And they said, we saw your video on YouTube, you doing some different movie trailer voices. It was just a video of me in my makeshift booth doing a bunch of different genres together in one video. They said, we saw your website that you do real movie trailer voiceover stuff. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, it would be so cool to have a professional movie guy on our show. And it took a little while to kind of get the flow down and kind of get to where it worked out. And then it just kind of took off. And from that point, they started making them every week, and then expanded to doing the prank videos and just a bunch of other stuff. And then that kind of helped kind of increase my opportunities to get into other voiceover stuff. And my original manager said that we still work together, but he's like, look, I can't run my business and manage you as well as I want to, because you need somebody that can work with you one-on-one full-time and not have this other business going on. So he looked around and tried to find me other people, just kind of started alphabetically and looked down the list of folks. And after he got to like C, he found my current manager, which didn't take too long. And she was a little skeptical because she represents some very big talent. I don't know if you know anything about voiceover stuff, but Tom Kane, who's the voice of Professor Utonium from Powerpuff Girls and Yoda from Clone Wars, cool. He's got a huge career, but he also does a lot of movie trailer and promo stuff. And she represents guys like him, only a handful of people. And I'm like, whoa, okay, she's kind of a big deal. And she's like, we're going to try you out and let you try a few things. And they sent me an audition for this Adam Sandler sounded like for Hotel Transylvania, the very first movie. Wow. And apparently I nailed it, and it led to like 60 something trailers. And it was the biggest paycheck probably of one of the biggest, if not the biggest in my career. She's like, yeah, I think we want to sign you. And I'm like, all right, cool. So between doing sound alikes and doing movie trailers, I had kind of a career going to enough where I was working full-time just in voiceover after only 3 years being in this business. And we went from government cheese to giving money back to help people. In fact, we went back to some of the places who helped us out with groceries, some of the churches and places, and donated stuff back to them to help out because they helped us when we were in need. And when things got better, we tried to give back. And then from there, my new manager got me with one of the best agencies in LA, and they started getting me booked in video games and cartoons and just everything. And it just kind of exploded on me. And as I made more connections, I started getting into more areas of the business like anime and sizzle reels and filling in for people for movies and stuff. And yeah, it's been crazy, dude. I've seen my name up in the movie theaters on the screen. John Baylor right there up there with some of my heroes. Optimus Prime himself in the Bumblebee movie. I played Shockwave and Soundwave, and my name is sandwiched right between two of my biggest heroes. in the business, Greg Griffin, who's Daphne and Scooby-Doo and Vicky and Fairly Odd Parents, and Steve Bloom, who's Spike from Cowboy Bebop and Starscream from Transformers Prime. Like, these are people I looked up to that inspire other people to become voice actors, and my name's up there on the screen with them, including Peter Cullen, who's the guy who, because that was like a lifelong childhood dream come true, to work with Peter Cullen in a Transformers thing, with him as Optimus and me as some other Transformer. And we have a scene together, it's like me and then Peter Cullen and then me again. I'm like, holy crap, that really happened. It's on where everybody can see it. And from then it just got bigger and bigger, and it continues to rise. And I'm still in awe of how great God is, that he's blessed me with this ability, and that he's helped me to grow. And it's not easy, man, for a guy of faith to come out into a business like this, where that's not exactly the norm. And it's a very liberal state, very liberal community. And I'm not a red hat conservative or anything like that, but I am a Christian, and that's not something that's fairly common, because most people kind of shun any faith religious talk. And there's a few friends I've found out here that are in the business as well, that have been doing cartoons and stuff for years, that are also Christians, which I didn't know. And I'm like, man, how do you do that? That's tough. So yeah, it's been an uphill battle, but it's a battle that it feels like we're on the winning side of,
It sounds
kind of brings you current.
Sounds like it, man. You're true. Like, this is a true story of hope. And the only reason I say that is because, number one, it is. Number two, all the comments that are coming through from you, everybody's saying, that's great, man. Like, these nugs just said, that's great, man. I get so hyped about this kind of thing. People are saying, amazing story, way to achieve your goals. Literally, I think it is a super amazing story. You went from doing something for fun, just kind of like kicks and giggles, to actually turning that into a career. And I had a question for you. When you're doing it part-time and then you transitioned to kind of doing it full-time gig, were you, because you're talking about management, and I'm not familiar with the business. So were you independent? Was it like your own company, or when you were going full-time, I missed that part? How was that transition?
Yeah, it's voiceover is always kind of self-employed, because even when you have people that work for you, like an agent or a manager, and it's not common for a voice actor to have a manager and an agent. In fact, the 80% of the I would assume around 80% of voice actors don't have any kind of representation at all. They're all doing everything on their own. And then the other 15% probably have some kind of agent, either a non-union agent or one that does both, or one that's just union. Because there's only about 3 cities in the US that have, big agencies for voiceover. So most of it's either online, or it's just a smaller agent somewhere in like Texas or whatever. Gotcha. And then there's that tiny little 5% that have a manager and an agent. And that's where a lot of people look to me like, holy crap, you have a manager and agent. I'm like, and see, I was like you. I was like, is that good? I don't know. Like I did a ton of research before I got into this business, but there's just a lot that you just have to learn on hand. And sometimes those lessons are hard to learn, and you learn from your mistakes. But yeah, it's not an easy business. You are technically self-employed, so taxes can really hurt. And it looks good on paper when you make a ton of money. At least it looks like you make a ton of money. But then when you do all your deductions and stuff, you realize you're only doing about 3 times better than you were when you were, picking up trash or fry cook and whatever. But it is enough for me there's a lot of benefits from it, because it allows me to meet a lot of interesting people, work on some crazy cool stuff. But it also allows me to work from home. Even before this whole thing happened, I was able to work at home. And one of our children has autism, and that makes it a lot easier on my wife, that she's not stuck 24/7 all by herself with special needs child and 3 other angsty teenagers that are all at that age where they all butt heads all the time. So yeah, self-employment can be tough, period. And this is just one of those businesses where you have to hustle, dude, all the time. And there's a lot of voice actors who don't hustle. They just sit back and they think that the work's going to come to me, or my manager, my agent's going to do all of it for me, or whatever. But you can't. If you sit still, you're not going forward, and you just have to keep hustling and keep moving. Everything you can do to get work or get yourself out there. That's one of the reasons why I got on TikTok, because I love creating things. I've always loved making people laugh and entertaining people. I think God gave me a great sense of humor, and just a way to lift people's spirits when they're. I cannot even count how many times people have commented or messaged and talked about I was depressed or borderline suicide, or I was thinking about taking my life or ending it all, or I was just went through a bad divorce or a break. And, they're always some tragedy story. And they're like, your stuff really helped me turn around and help me get out of my. So I just watched your stuff for hours and hours until I was in a better mood. And that makes me feel better than most anything else. Just the light of Jesus Christ in my heart shining through to other people and encouraging them and lifting them up and bringing them out of dark places. Just that it means the world to me. So I don't do TikTok and stuff for the money. I don't do Instagram for money. I don't do YouTube for money. I do that just to help other people. And it's not easy when you're doing all that on your own, because a lot of voice actors, either they do all voiceover or there's people who do all social media. And then there's people like me who do both, and they're doing it all by themselves. And it is a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so many points that you hit on that I want to make sure I remember to cover with you. First of all, you have an amazing voice. You really do.
Thanks.
That's awesome. I've gone into your content a little bit, but I need to do a little bit more due diligence on that end. But what I did want to say to you is that I am starting to get a lot of those messages myself from people who are going through different hardships in their life. And I think the thing for me that really resonated from you was that it is what's the word? It is it's almost addicting to me to try to give back, because I've gone through my hardships, right? And that's a conversation I had yesterday. And I've healed from all that, and now I just want to give back to the world. And so the fact that you're doing everything you're doing on social is to give back means a lot to me, because that's exactly what I'm doing in my own sense, in my own right. And so I appreciate you for that. A lot of people.
That's how I found you, man. I found you just going through TikTok, and you popped up in my feed. And when I checked out your stuff, I'm like, this guy's heart's in the right place. He's trying to bring joy and happiness and encouragement and inspiration to other people for nothing out of it for himself, just to help out other people, which that's exactly what I like to do as well. I totally get that.
Awesome, man. Well, you touched on something too that I think is it's a big confusion for a lot of people out in the world when it comes to being independent, especially in your business or any business, anybody who's working on their own. A lot of people see, like you just mentioned, a couple movies that you've been, or a couple movies and gigs that you've done that a lot of people look at and are inspired by, and it's a dream for many people. And what I think is interesting to me is that people see the end result and they never really pay attention to how that person got there, the journey they went through. And so for a question for you, John, is like, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your journey so far?
The biggest lesson that I have learned is I'll put it to you this way.
Yeah.
There's a story in the Bible where Jesus is telling this parable about a man who was just kind of looking at all of his, they use the word increase. So all of his profit, all of his, his wealth, his savings. And he kind of got to looking at it, and he kind of got a big head about it. And he's like, man, look at all the stuff that I've got. I'm going to have to build bigger barns and build bigger storage space to contain all my stuff. And Jesus called him a fool. And that's a pretty strong word in the Bible. And he said, you fool, tonight your soul will be required of you. And at the end of the day, when he died, what was all that substance good for? And I realized that working for fame and working for money was not the right reason to be in this business, because one day you could be sitting on a mountain of money and think that you're set for stuff, and then the next day you don't have a job for 3 or 4 months, or you something like this pandemic happens and payments get stalled or put on hold because those companies all of a sudden need that money just to survive themselves, and then they don't pay you, or some of the jobs just disappear because, well, if I'll put it to you this way, I did the voice towards a recent job that I started working on in around December. And I'm not a wrestling fan, although I am from Memphis where wrestling began. So you're welcome. But I did the voice for this. It's a talk show, basically. It was called WWE Backstage. Well, They can't get together under pandemic situations. So the job's gone. It's not that I'm fired. It's just that there is no job because they can't get together anymore. And stuff like that has affected a lot of people. So even though I'm still able to work from home, and I have a lot of other jobs going on, other jobs had to cancel or postpone. There was one job that had to reschedule like 4 or 5 times. So never ever just think that you're okay, because I kind of got to a point like that in my life where I was looking at my job, and I looked at my bank account, and I was depositing like 15, 20 grand a month. And I was like, man, is this going to be the way my life is from now on? This is awesome. I can
Mm.
buy this and I can do that. And I got that big egotistical, I'm going to build bigger barns. I'm going to get bigger storage. And God taught me a lesson in humility. The jobs just dried up out of nowhere. I didn't get paid for 3 months. I blew through every dime of my savings just to survive out here. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. I don't need to get a big head. I don't need to get pride about this and think I'm just some big deal. I'm just going to give back and make sure that I'm doing this for the right reasons and not because I'm being greedy or have pride in my heart for all this stuff, because you kind of get to the point where you look at your career, and when your career gets big enough, you can't help but almost think, well, this is me, I did this. But
Yeah.
I didn't do this all by myself. I did this
Yeah.
with the help of a lot of other people, and right place, right time. God really guided me through this, and I didn't give him the credit for it. And I suffered from it for a long time, and that
Wow.
was a really rough year. This was last year. So we went for almost a third of the year without any income at all, nothing coming in, no jobs being booked. And if there's anything you learn about this business, is that when you do a job, you don't necessarily get paid for it right away. You have
Mm.
to wait sometimes up to 90 business days, which can be almost 4 months. And so you can't take you can't take a dime for granted. You made sure you give the credit to the right place. For those people who helped you get there, give credit to God, and not try to say I did all this myself. And be smart with your money. Don't think just because you got money coming in that you can buy whatever you want and get time to get that new car and get those new clothes. It's smarter to put that money aside for those times where there's not going to be a dime coming in and this is your only income. You may have to pick up a side job. One of the things I say when I coach and when I do voiceover workshops or whatever, when I teach this stuff, is
Yeah.
that don't ever think that you're good to go and you're fine. In fact, the number one thing I say is don't quit your day job, because you may need that day job. Don't just assume, well, I'm booking work now, I can do this full time. You probably not. The fact that the majority of voice actors do not have a full-time voiceover gig. They work part-time in voiceover and they have a full-time job somewhere else and they work around that schedule. So that's a much smarter, much wiser, safer way to do the job. And it takes a lot of faith and a lot of guts to go out there and do it full time and nothing else. That's the only way I even have time to make any social media content, is that I don't have another source of income. But that
Mm.
makes it hard. It really does.
It does, big time. Whether you guys out there are fans of this guy or not, not John, but I'm getting ready to drop a quote from a guy. It's "Stay hungry, stay foolish" from Steve Jobs. I think that resonates with me with what you're sharing here. Is that never think you're never. What's the word, John? I'm looking for it. Never be content. Is that the word?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
In a sense, like staying humble, having
Yeah,
humility.
stay humble, sit down, just like the song says.
Yeah, for sure. Um, cool, man. This is awesome. This is real awesome. So, are you in Memphis right now?
No, I was born in Memphis, and then
Mhm.
we moved to South Haven, Mississippi, which is a really tiny town. Well, it was back then. It was a tiny town just south of Memphis, but because there's not a lot of major cities out that way. So when people ask where I'm from, I just say Memphis because they know where that is. Because if you say
Gotcha.
Mississippi, people assume all kinds of places. They assume the Gulf, or they assume the middle of the state. They really forget that there's a whole other big chunk of state out there besides Jackson, and you know. So I just say Memphis because we could spit on Memphis from our house. I mean, we could see the road closest to our house was called State Line Road because it ran
Mm,
between Mississippi and Tennessee.
makes sense.
So born there, lived in that area for the majority of my life. Thought I would never move. Thought I'd be stuck there forever. And as my career progressed, and we had insurance based through the Screen Actors Guild, which is the union for voice actors and actors and stuff. And it was not easy to get that coverage to work in Mississippi because it's based out of Los Angeles. So we were limited on what we could do with our son as far as like getting him therapy and getting him any kind of anything really. And the experts, the therapists, all that stuff in Memphis, there's not much there. The school system's awful. It's honestly sad. It kind of reminds me of Harry Potter's little house, little room underneath the stairs. It was so sad, and it smelled like a nursing home. You could tell that they used the room for storage for tables and chairs.
Mm.
Yeah, it smelled like urine. It wasn't clean. They had all special needs kids, including physically disabled children, being taught in the same classroom together. Now, I may not be a smart man, but I don't think you can teach a blind kid and an autistic kid the same way, because one of them is not you know, mentally incompetent or disabled, and the other one is. And
Correct.
one of them's physically disabled and the other one's not. Those two need two different kinds of classes. So the main reason why we moved to LA is we found out that there was a lot more options for him here. In fact, we found that the school will allow him to go there till he's 22 or 3, which is a lot of extra years of therapy and speech and things to really help him. And he's improved by leaps and bounds. We know God was in this, because we just up and sold our house and moved within in less than a month's time. We went from being there grounded and roots in that area to being completely moved here 100%. And that just doesn't happen, because you're
Wow.
moving a family of 6 people. We have 4 kids, my wife and I. That's 6 people to move across 1,700 miles. That doesn't just happen overnight. And it
No, it
did.
does not.
It literally happened overnight.
Crazy.
And he's gotten some. The teachers even told us he's made so much progress. They wonder how much better he would have done if we'd got out here sooner. But we had to wait for God's timing. It wouldn't have worked out if we'd come any sooner or any later. And he's made leaps and bounds. He used to bang his head against the wall for 4 hours at a time, and just
Oh
nothing
man.
could console him, and he just couldn't speak, barely walked. And now he's come a long, long way. He's almost a completely different kid. They told us whenever he was diagnosed at 18 months old that he would never walk and he would never talk. And
Mm.
now, if you turn your back on him for 2 seconds, he'll not only walk, he'll sprint to a whole other place. And if you let him talk, he'll never shut up. So we've already crossed those two things off the list. But yeah, he was the main reason why we came here.
That's
But we've been
beautiful.
out here for 3 years, and yeah, I think it'll be 3 years in July, or 4. But we've only been out here for a few years. But that's where we were for most of my life. I turned 41 this year, so majority of the time is definitely in the Memphis area.
That's beautiful, man. How's the family? Is everyone doing well? Doing okay?
Well, we are not trained professionals in the special needs department, so homeschooling an autistic kid has been a difficult challenge, to say the
I can
least.
only imagine,
But
man. Yeah,
the teachers out here have been really cool about, being understanding about the situation. So they're not going to hold any of this against us. In fact, they're not going to, hold him back a grade, or take anything away from our kids for this semester.
that's good.
And unfortunately, my daughter's, she's 1 year away from graduating. So this is kind of put two of our kids are in charter school, which means they don't apply the state's laws and rules don't apply. So the whole, we're not going to hold any bad grades. No kid's going to fail that thing. That's all for state schools. And apparently our daughter's school is not doing that. They're like, no, she's still got to keep up her grades and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, great. That's going to be
Yeah.
fun. She thought she was going to get an easy out this semester, but that didn't happen. So,
Dang it.
but
Dang
yeah,
it.
they help so much. And the teachers actually care. I've never seen a teacher as old school, like 3 times a week, they would call us up. Your kid's being bad again. Come pick them up. Here, they're just
Mhm.
like, no, you can be bad all you want, but we're not calling your parents. Just talk to us when you calm down. And he stopped doing it because the teacher stood up to him and didn't give him what he wanted. He's so used to
Yeah.
being, he has this kind of temper tantrum 3-year-old mentality that, if I hold my breath long enough, or if I get violent or physical or, you know, loud, that they'll just let me have whatever I want. And he's kind of almost completely outgrown all of those bad habits. It's literally a miracle, man. I mean, it's the only thing better than this would have been Jesus coming down in person and touching him and healing him right then and there. That'd be the
Mm,
only thing more improved than what he's already improved.
that's
Because we
beautiful.
never thought we'd see the day where he could carry on a normal conversation, and he almost can now.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Glad to hear that. Um, Yo, so everybody out there who's tuning in, I am talking to my guy John Bailey, aka Epic Voice Guy. People were asking me, John, where they can find you. I know you mentioned YouTube. I know we talk about TikTok. You're also on Instagram. So are your handles the same? Epic.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm not the same on is TikTok, and there's a quick little story behind that. When
Okay.
when TikTok first came out, a friend of mine, I was at VidCon, and if anybody knows anything about VidCon, it's all the social media. It's mainly YouTube stuff. It's
Yeah.
mainly just millions of tweens that are looking for British music singers from YouTube. So don't get self trampled out there. I have a few times. All somebody has to do is say,
I want to
"Oh
do it.
no!" And then just thousands of girls just trample you, trying to get to wherever it was that you yelled at or pointed at. But while I was there, their show floor, there's a lot of people out there promoting their new thing, and there was a group out there promoting TikTok. And this is before it was anything. It was before it bought Musically, and I was
Wow.
like, yeah, sure, And I'm always like, any new platform, I'll sign up for. So I made an account right then and there. But then a year or so went by, and all I'd ever done was make an account.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried to go back into it, apparently I made the password too hard for even me to remember, and I couldn't get it. Every time I tried to sign back in, it tried to create me a new TikTok account, and I was so mad because I had my brand the same on every platform, which is at Epic Voice Guy. And then TikTok, I got stuck with Epic Voice Guy Official because I couldn't get
Mm,
into my own account. So I did
mm.
have Epic Voice Guy, and then I screwed myself out of it. So everything else is at Epic Voice Guy. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I got tired of the drama and just not. I didn't have the ability to speak my mind there. I was very scrutinized and watched by people that I either work with or potential clients or other voice actors. Like, you can't say this and that, and it's very no to talk about your faith. And so I just got tired of it. I got tired of the rules and I quit. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll start over with a brand new account and only have my actual friends on there. Facebook blocked me. They won't let me make a new account anymore. I think they're
That's
mad
crazy.
because I quit. I
Yeah,
don't know. So
crazy.
everything else except for Facebook, I'm on.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, I dropped both of your handles. I have Epic
I
Voice.
appreciate it. It's actually Ley, but that's fine.
Where is that? Oh, for John
Bailey
Bailey.
is actually, yeah.
I'll change that in a second.
I
Apologize,
actually have
but
a funny story about that. So I actually changed my name because when I was living in Memphis, you can see how a bank would look at a check from Los Angeles, and if the name's misspelled, they're like, "Yeah, there's no way this check's yours. It's for thousands of
for
dollars,
sure.
and the name's all." So
Yeah.
they gave me a hard time about it, and I was like, "You know what? I'm so sick of them giving me a hard time over my name being misspelled because my name's been misspelled my whole life." So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change my name to where it's still part of my name, but it's easier to spell and remember. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is fine. Bailey's nice and easy. Nobody can misspell Bailey. And then I worked on this campaign for Smurfs, and it was like a ton of trailers, like 28 something spots. And they used my last name as the watermark so that, the halfway translucent, words across the screen before, so nobody would use it. And they misspelled it. They Bailly in this giant font that goes across the whole screen. I'm like, well, so much for them not being able to spell that one wrong.
Well, as a guy with the last name Atang, trust me, I completely understand. So
See,
I've had
your last name's like my real last name. It's actually really easy to spell if you just spell it the way it sounds.
sounds,
But
yes.
nobody ever did. So I was like, you know what, John Bailey. And I knew shortening it from Jonathan to John, I was going to get feedback about, is it J-O-H-N? And used to, I would be like, no, it's like Jonathan from the Bible, like David's best friend. And now people look at you cross-eyed and be like, what's a Bible? So I started saying, it's like John from Jon Snow. Oh, I know Jon Snow is. Okay.
It's hilarious. Yeah, so you were talking about Facebook and how you left it because, and I've heard that from a lot of people. And honestly, to be completely candid with you and the audience out here, I hesitated starting this show as a Facebook Live show only because one thing I really appreciate about TikTok is that it's a completely new environment. I knew a lot of my friends and family members were on there, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could build something meaningful without like the leverage from like everybody who I've known in the past. But it does get kind of interesting when you start to really break down some of these platforms like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. But for you, John, what do you what's one of your core messages that you're trying to spread out into the world on your platforms? Because I know you're pretty active on, especially
Honestly,
yeah.
I'm a lot like you, man. I'm trying to just spread positivity. I'm trying to do exactly what Psalm said. Let your light so shine before men. I want people, because I'm not a perfect man. I mean, Jesus didn't Jesus didn't come for perfect people. He came for
Mhm.
imperfect people. So that's what I am. I've made mistakes. I'm a sinner just like everybody else. I screw up every day. The good thing is, honestly, which is kind of funny, that I came to LA and I got hurt a long time. I don't mean to get super religious on you or super deep, but there was some issues that had happened in a church that we went to back when we were much younger, and a newer family with very young children. And it was a gut check. It was like
Yeah.
a literal punch to the stomach. It knocked the
Mhm.
wind right out of us. Devil won. We got out of church. We didn't have a church home for a long time. I'll be honest, it is hard to find a good church that has a department for special needs kids. It's sad, honestly, that so many churches don't have anything if you're a family with a disabled child. And it makes it so hard, and the whole family doesn't get, either some of the family gets to go, or one or two people get to go, but you can't bring your whole family, or you just have to spend your whole time in a room alone with your own kid, which defeats the purpose of going to church. And it took me coming to what my family growing up would have considered, Sodom and Gomorrah, moving out to Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
to get back into church and back into my Bible and start doing the things that I've should been doing all along. And honestly, I'm just trying to show other people that you could be the worst person on the planet, and Jesus still cared for you and still died for you, and he still loves you, and he's still there with arms open, and all you got to do is accept him. And so many people, that message has gotten so lost because it's been so long since he was physically on this planet that people look back at it now like it's a fairy tale or it's just some kind of children's story. And they don't realize that his message is still the same today as it was 2,000 years ago. So if I can help one person to find their way there, or even just share a little bit of the love that Jesus has put in my heart with other people through the mediums that I do make content through, and encourage them or inspire them in a good way, in a positive way. If I can just share that love that he's put in my heart with other people through my platforms, that's all I've ever really wanted to do. I don't do it because I'm hoping to get some huge brand deal. Oh, that'd be great. I would love to be able to be paid to make the content that I make. But until that point, I'm just doing this because I love people, and Jesus loved people, and I should love people too, no matter how crappy they treat you. And I've met a few people. There's this one of the negative things about this business is there's people that will literally climb over you to further their own careers, and they'll act like they're your best friend while secretly stabbing you in the back with a knife. So it's not easy to maintain that heart towards people when you see some of the kind of people like, man, Jesus died for this jerk.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes it hard from a human perspective. And that's why I'm not God, because I'm like, you're not a good person, but yeah, so yeah, just doing the right thing. I know that sounds like a stupid, simple message, but that's pretty much it.
Hey, I think simple is perfect, and I think I really do love what you're up to. And if anybody out there has any questions for John, please start to drop those in the comment section. I'm speaking to you specifically, YouTube, Facebook as well. If you guys have any questions for us, myself or John, please drop that in the comment section. I'm curious, John. I know you've done interviews. I'm assuming you've done several interviews prior to this, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many. I've
What?
honestly, back when I did my first one, I was like, I can't believe somebody wants to talk to me about this. Like, I don't really think I have enough story to share. But after a few hundred times, I'm like, yeah, I guess this is kind of I mean, if anything else, my story helps people realize that if you hang in there, if you don't give up, and you just keep working as hard as you can,
Mm,
eventually you'll get there. It's just
mm,
about not quitting.
damn.
Because when I coach, one of the first things that I say is like, all right, you should just totally give up on this and quit. And then they're like, wait, what? I was like, you should just give up and quit, man. And they'll say something to the effect usually, but I don't want to quit. I'm like, well, that's that you have to keep that what you just said right there. I don't want to give up. I don't want to quit. This is what I want. You have to have that in your heart. If you just doing this, if you're one of those people like, hey, I can just talk with my mouth and make millions of dollars. That's not what this industry is. It requires a ton of work and dedication, and it's going to be a strain on your marriage. It's going to be a strain on your relationships with your family and friends. uh this is a town and a business where not everybody in it's good people, so it's easy to get messed over, and you just have to have a really thick skin and I sometimes it's really hard to look at acquaintances or other people that I feel like haven't been in this business as long as I have, or they haven't worked their way hard, or they piggybacked off of some success of somebody else, or they took what other
Yeah.
people have done and like made themselves successful. But I'm like, you know what? God's not going to reward me for doing this that way. I think you need to make it on your own steam. You need to put your own effort and your own work into it. You need to find out the information yourself, not just let somebody spend 10, 20 years doing all the work for you and then just take what they learn and do it. Because I was talking about this the other day. I forget who I was talking about this with. No, I was saying this on Twitter, because a lot of people have they're confused about what makes a voice actor quote unquote professional. And there's
Right.
so many. I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
talking thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that think that if somebody gives me money, that makes me a professional. That's not true. Because when you first work a job that you've never worked at before with no prior experience, they start paying you to do a job that you have no idea how to do. You have to be trained and you have to get good at it. There's a lot of people that are getting paid to do a job that are not professional at it. In fact, they stink at it, but it's their job and that's what they do. So you can get paid at doing this job and not even be good. Trust me, there's websites out there like Fiverr
I'm sure.
that
I'm
you
sure.
can get a quote unquote professional voice actor for $5. Let me tell you what, you get what you pay for.
Real talk.
So there's people
I've
who have
spent
worked
dollars
really
on
hard
Fiverr.
to
It's
get
true.
better, and they've
Yeah.
spent tons of money on coaching and classes and stuff. And those people, they know how to conduct themselves professionally. If there's one thing we've learned about the entertainment industry in the last 3 or 4 years, is that there's some people at the very top that have not been acting professionally. They're getting busted for harassing people and much worse, and some of them being arrested, and some of them entire careers being taken. And there's, like I said, there's a difference between professionalism and getting paid for a job. So yeah, that's one of the things I like to bring up to people, because you can be, I've seen people who've never even booked a job that act like A-level, A-list movie actors, and I'm like, those guys are professionals. Like, I don't care if they've never even made a dime from this, they're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen John is asking, what was your favorite job? Jen from YouTube, what was your favorite job you did?
My favorite job to this day has still been working on Bumblebee movie, because I'd worked on other Transformers projects before, and I was a huge 80s fan kid, so Transformers was my favorite cartoon. And I know this is, again, weird to kind of put this into a religious context, but Transformers kind of stuck with me because there was a Bible verse in Romans about Paul talking about be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and that word kind of stuck with me. And Transformers kind of describe what people go through when they accept Jesus Christ in their heart and become a Christian. You go from being one thing to something, transforming into something totally different. And the old thing's gone, and there's this new thing there. And for some reason, it really just kind of stuck with me. That it was a good versus evil show, and good always won. And Optimus Prime was this hero, this selfless hero that would put his own life at risk before he would risk his friends and basically his family. And there's something really resonated with me about that. And the shows were the toys were very interesting. It was like getting a puzzle and a vehicle and a robot all in one toy, and it really stuck with me. And that's the one thing that I'm still as much a fan of today as I was 35 years ago. And just coming full for the thing that helped inspire me to pursue the career, and then me coming full circle and working for them.
Yeah.
A full big blockbuster movie like that was mind blowing. And it's even more mind blowing because the Bible says that if you pray about something, that God will give you the thoughts and intent of your heart. And not only did I get to work on my favorite franchise, I got to voice my 2 favorite characters out of all the thousands of
That's amazing,
Transformers characters out there.
Wow.
I got to voice my top 2. I've officially voiced 3 of my top 3 favorite characters, which is Optimus Prime, Shockwave, and Soundwave.
Wow.
Shockwave's always been my favorite, and to get to voice both of those. And there's a cool little story about this.
That's so cool, dude.
So I feel the way I got into the movie was I got hired as a sound-alike for Optimus Prime because I'd done Optimus Prime's voice for Hasbro for some other stuff, much smaller stuff.
Yeah.
And my agent took a clip of that cartoon and I put it in my demo, and then she sent that to Paramount. And they're like, oh, we need him to fill in for Optimus Prime for the Bumblebee movie. And I'm like, holy cow. I mean, I knew they were going to replace me, but that was huge for me. And because of that, I got the other 2 jobs. So I got to be not 1, but 2 characters in the movie. But there's a website that gives out free movie screenings. And they don't tell you what the movie is. They just say, from a studio comes a movie. Do you have kids certain ages, blah, blah, blah. So I answered the survey. They're like, congratulations, you qualify for this screening. Be here at such and such a time, blah, blah, blah. I told my wife's like, hey, they're looking for somebody with kids, 2 of our kids' ages. So I took the 2 youngest kids there, not even knowing what we were seeing, guys. This is insane. So we get there, and then we finally get in the, and you have to understand, for a screening, you got to get there super early. You have to stand outside and wait for hours, and all you're getting out of is a free movie, and you have to take a survey at the end. That's how the free screenings work.
Right.
Well, when we got in, this guy that looked like Tim Gunn
comes in with this fancy suit, and he's like, "Congratulations, audience! You were the very first people to see the Bumblebee movie." And my kids lost it. They're like, "Holy cow, we're gonna see the movie that you worked on!" And at the time, I didn't know I was going to be any final voices in the movie. I had no idea. We were just happy to see it early. And then that first opening scene comes up where all the cool stuff's going on. And it was my voice coming out of Optimus Prime, dude.
Wow.
It wasn't Peter Cullen. It was me. And my son had tears in his eyes. He was 11, I think, at the time. And he's like, "Dad," he's like, that's going to be you up there for real one day. And I'm like, "Oh man," like my heart, it's like a MasterCard commercial. And he's like, both of my kids are like, "What does this mean? Does this mean you're going to be in the movie?" I'm like, "I don't know, guys, but let's just watch this and appreciate it for what it is." That is a memory that I will never be able to let go of, because it was just so cool getting to do that with my son. My younger son is a huge Transformers fan, probably bigger than I am. And I'm the one that got him into it. So to get to share that with the two of them, my wife's still a little mad that she didn't get to go with us, but we didn't know what movie we were seeing. So when we did the survey at the end, my son's like, "I don't know, but I think the voices were awesome, especially this one." I'm like, okay, calm down, bro. Don't oversell it.
Man, that is super awesome, man. Wow. What an
crazy.
That is crazy. Man, I'm inspired. I'm inspired by this entire, we've been on for 51 minutes. I did not expect, honestly, I thought we were going to get you to do like a whole bunch of, which I do want to do, by the way, but a whole bunch of like different voices and like, I just didn't expect it to be this impactful. So I appreciate that.
This is the Reader's Digest version of the story.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
There's some other cool stories, but I only have an hour. So
yeah, cool. I do want to see if you're open to it. Can we get a little sample of one of your favorite voices?
Yeah, well, about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I started doing Ryan Reynolds' voice. And I never even knew I could do it before, because some voices are pretty normal and there's not much to hold on to.
Yeah.
And God gave me a really good ear, and I think that has more to do with it than being able to vocally mimic what you hear, is being able to hear the difference between the different voices, and that actually, combined with the ability to change your voice, kind of makes those, they go from, there's an impression and then there's a sound alike. A lot of people on the internet do impressions. Impressions are meant to be entertaining, they're meant to be fun or funny. A sound alike is more like a voice ninja. I sneak in, I fill in for the other actor, and then I sneak back out again, and nobody even knows it was me. And sometimes I don't even get credited for it.
I didn't even know that.
It's a huge amount of my business, so I'm like gotten pretty good at it. So, but when I started doing Ryan Reynolds' voice, I guess I just got really good at it at some point, and then all of a sudden I was booking him left and right, man. I recorded with Michael Bay. I recorded for Six Underground on Netflix. I recorded for Detective Pikachu at Warner Brothers and Legendary Studios. That was awesome, dude. And Legendary Pictures, guys, they have a kaiju toenail in their office that's like 10 feet long, 12 feet long, inside this movie like glass container. I mean, they have some of the coolest things I've ever seen. I mean, you think your nerd cave is cool? Their nerd cave has got you beat by miles, man. So I get to see some of the coolest stuff. I think I posted a behind the scenes picture of all the office when they were working on Pikachu, because the whole place was head to toe Pokemon. My kid would have been in heaven. I'm not as big of a Pokemon fan, but I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan. So getting to fill in for him for pretty much the whole movie was awesome. That's dope. And it was great because, I mean, I can still hear the difference because I know what the original voice sounds like. So when I hear, I'm like, oh, that's not the original voice. It's close. But listening to the engineer, they would like take clips of me and like insert it and it's kind of edit it and weave it together with Ryan Reynolds' real voice. They got so good at it that I couldn't tell which one was me and which one was him. Which means I did a good job.
Yeah, for sure.
And they were all really thoroughly impressed with my acting ability, which is more important because both or all three times that I filled in for Ryan Reynolds so far, for all three movies that I've filled in for him so far, every single director I worked with was like, he doesn't just do a good sound alike. He can act just like Ryan Reynolds can. Because they'd run through a couple of other people that were Ryan Reynolds sound-alikes that couldn't act. They could do an impression of Ryan Reynolds, but they could not act like him at all.
Wow.
They were so focused on doing the voice that they weren't performing. And once I kind of get in the groove, like, you can't tell the difference. And I'm like, well, I'm just getting really good at my job. But that one's a lot of fun to do. I mean, you have to wear your brown pants unless it's Saturday, then you put on the yellow pants. Or if it's Sunday, just no pants at all. Yeah, it's just that kind of stuff. And they were really good. And I'm really good at improvising. I think that's a very important skill to have as a voice actor, because you don't want to get caught in that like a deer in the headlights and be like, so you just have to be prepared for anything.
Yeah, that's why I'm not fit for the role, for sure. Excellent. I love Ryan Reynolds, so that was fantastic. We have a question that came in from the audience, YouTube. Who is your idol? By Jen Corrican. Who is your idol?
Well, I don't believe in idol worship. God's always been my number one inspiration. But as far as like guys that I look up to, there's quite a few. But Peter Cullen, the original Optimus Prime voice, was my biggest inspiration. He was he's such a humble man. He's never gotten a big ego about the thing. He's never, been kind of a funny story. So when I was working on Six Underground, the engineer happened to be the same guy that worked on Bumblebee movie.
Yeah.
So while I was there, he's like, and the funniest thing was every time I went to Paramount to record for Bumblebee, I had no idea I was working with the actual director of the movie. Because when you work on movies like this, usually you just get some random casting director or booth director that happens to be working at that studio.
Makes sense.
I had no idea that was Travis Knight, folks. I never met Travis Knight before. It's not like M. Night Shyamalan, like I know what he looks like. He's not Lucas or Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd only ever done like 4 major films, and Kubo and the Two Strings were like his first big movie. So I knew the name, but I had no idea what he looked like. And he was such a cool, down-to-earth guy that I just felt totally comfortable. And we nerded out over Transformers together. And then, so while I was working on 600 guys, he's like, you heard the story about how you got Shockwave and Soundwave, right? And I'm like, no. He said, well, we were going through the voices, and we came up on yours. And so Travis looks over at me and is like, so who do you think for Shockwave and Soundwave? And he said, I looked over and was like, it's got to be John, right? Like, it can't not be. And Travis was like, yes, I mean, it's got to be. He sounded just like the original cartoon. It was so hearing feedback like that, and like the director bragging on me, that just meant the world to me, because so here's what happened when Peter came in to record for Optimus Prime. Now, this actually makes me kind of sad too, but it's still kind of funny. So when he comes in to record, they play this temporary voiceover, so he'll get the timing and speed and whatever. And they played my voice for Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime.
That's
and
crazy.
He said his eyebrows got big, and he turned around. He's like, "Who is that?" And Travis Knight turned. He's like, "It's good though, right?" And he turns and looks. He goes, "Uh-oh." And I'm like, "Oh no!" Peter Cullen thinks I'm gunning for his job.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
I'm not trying to steal any. I have a very, very strict policy about stealing jobs from other people. In fact, now that I know a lot of the other voice actors out there, for instance, I get if anybody saw the TikTok video I did where I did a bunch of SpongeBob impressions or any of my SpongeBob stuff, like I know SpongeBob, I know Tom, and I know a lot of the other people that work on that show. And I'm not going out there trying to take Tom's job. They have a very strict policy at Nickelodeon that they keep the original cast. And after the creator passed away, they've still been out there kind of sort of fishing for other SpongeBob voices. And a few times I've gotten an audition for it, and I'll text Tom and be like, dude, they're trying to audition your character off on somebody else. He's like, thanks for having my back.
No, that's
just kind of how this business works. You keep an eye out for each other.
For sure.
I don't want somebody coming up to me and be like, hey, John, they're trying to audition for your role,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you reap what you sow. So I don't want to go out there being the job stealer. In fact, Jess Harnell, if you don't know who Jess is Wacko Warner from the Animaniacs, among many other things.
That's cool. I'm not good with names, by the way, John. But as you're saying these things, like they're like they make sense. So keep going.
So he jokingly nicknamed me the Scud Missile. He's like, he's coming after all our jobs. He's gonna replace everybody. I'm like, dude, don't say that, man. People are gonna think you're for real. Anyways, but yeah, no, I have a strict policy against like taking other people's work.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Peter Cullen was like one of my biggest inspirations. Frank Welker as well. He's the original voice of Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo, but he's kind of like the godfather of cartoon voices, man. I can't help it. Look up to that guy. Name? And as far as movie trailers go, Don LaFontaine, the OG movie trailer voice, the original In a World, like that guy.
Yes.
He's actually the one who coined that phrase. He came every movie trailer thing, one man, one desire, in a world, all that stuff. He came up with them.
That's cool.
So, I mean, he's like the king.
That's cool. That's real cool. Do you know Frank Is that who you mentioned? Did you mention the name Frank?
Yeah, Frank Welker. I wish I've met him once.
What
In
about
fact,
Frank Caliendo or something like that? David is asking an
oh,
audience.
Frank Caliendo, not Frank. No,
Caliendo.
I'm talking about Frank Welker, who's a
Okay.
cartoon. Frank Caliendo is a impressionist for Mad TV. No, we've never met, but I've heard directly from the horse's mouth that he does not allow anybody else to do impressions around him at all. Because
Okay.
apparently he gets a little concerned if somebody's better than he is.
Yeah. Look, check this out. So I have my guest ask question of the day. So I want you to start thinking about that. I'm going to read some of these comments out loud so we can see if anybody else had any questions or comments to say. Sanda Knox, by the way, John, I had a conversation with Sanda Knox yesterday. She's an actress, and she's been in the business for about 3 years, so she's really loving this conversation. I think you guys should link up. Sanda,
Cool.
I left his contact info below, and I'll make sure I leave it again before we hop off. MG says, I want here, so I would like to ask you a question when you start doing impressions.
1983 was my first impression. So as I mentioned briefly, my mom kind of got me into doing impressions by accident because she kind of made a competition. I was a very competitive kid.
Right.
And we didn't have a television growing up, so the only TV that I saw was at my grandmother's house, and the only things for kids on it were Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. So I picked up on a lot of those voices. But my mom one day, she's like, I can do Grover's voice. And the competitive part of me was like, I bet I can do it better. So Grover was the first impression I did as a 4-year-old kid. So
it's amazing. It's amazing. Cool. Well, do you have a question of the day?
I guess my question of the day would be, how hard are you willing to work towards your dream goal? You know, how much are you willing to sacrifice and put in and invest of your time and your life into something that you really, really want to do? Because if you're not willing to make those sacrifices and learn some hard lessons and go through some really, really tough stuff, I'm talking about, you know, almost ruining your marriage, or, you know, almost breaking your family up, or going broke and living off of, you know, welfare, or, you know, government cheese just to get by, you know. But, you know, without the government's help, we wouldn't have been able to take care of our kids because we couldn't afford formula when we were basically, you know, no job, no nothing. So how much are you willing to risk and invest in your goal and your dream?
Dude, John, you are fantastic. I know we could talk for hours because there's just so many questions I have. This has been really inspiring. I know people in the audience have loved it, especially the people I know personally who I've connected with. You know, you mentioned one thing about like your interviews and how, you know, you have this conversation with yourself as far as like people really want to like hear me out on hear my stories or whatever you said. I'm not sure exactly how you phrased it, but I think perspective is a big thing, man. And I think one of the values that come from the show, while selfishly, it's for me to like learn about awesome people like yourself and what you're up to in the world. I think the other part of this, and I've said it a few times on this show, is that perspective, like hearing your story and kind of what you went through and kind of your mindset behind how you view life, I think is important for people to see, because we're all going through our thing, right? We all have our battles. We all have you know, our hardships in our life. But the thing I've really been touching on is like, instead of comparing like how hard yours was compared to somebody else's, just being there and hearing and having empathy towards like their situation means a lot. So the fact that you're willing to not only wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning to entertain your story means a lot to me, man. I just want to say thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, man. I'm happy to help out.
Cool. Well, let's stay close. I'm definitely going to be shooting you some messages just for fun. I want to know some of the stuff that you were a part of again. I could listen.
Yeah, man.
I can re-listen to this again, but I'm going to shoot you some messages and just stay close to what you're up to on.
Appreciate it. Well, a quick plug for some stuff that's out right now that you can hear me on.
Yep.
You can hear me in various voices in Elder Scrolls Online. Different chapters like Murkmire and Elsewire, things like that. That's one of those ongoing game deals. You can hear me in Detective Pikachu just came out on Hulu, guys. So you can, if you already have Hulu, you can watch it and you're already paying for it. and I believe Bumblebee's on there as well, if not on regular cable by now. So
Cool.
yeah, you can hear me in both of those movies, and Underwater, which is actually a pretty decent movie for a sci-fi horror film. It's very old school aliens horror movie type thing. And I filled in for TJ Miller's voice for a lot of the movies, so you can hear me throughout and you can see me in the credits. That just came out on digital like the last week, and it's actually pretty good. It's kind of low. It's lowish budget, and it wasn't a huge movie when it was released, because it was one of those that was released during a slow time this past January. But it's actually a pretty decent movie, and I've always been a big fan of underwater movies like Abyss. You know, those things are it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's pretty decent. It's not for kids, just so you know. But if you're into that kind of movie, it's pretty awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, you guys see his name down there below. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you check out his amazing work. And yes, someone in the comments at 7 a.m. Yes, that's why I feel like John is amazing, an amazing guy for doing that. Because this is our first time actually our second time having a conversation. But our first time having a conversation on this caliber. So again, thank you so much, John. Facebook, YouTube, love you guys so much. Thank you for your time and your attention. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Not sure who the guest is yet. Still hustling, trying to find people. So John, if you know anybody out there who would be a good fit for this kind of please send them my way. But,
I wish I knew anybody out here that gets up as early as this. I want to say one last thing before I go, because you touched on my story and why it's so inspiring, because it's just really mind-blowing that a nerdy little kid in kind of a town in the middle of nowhere that's not any, I mean, Memphis is not known for this type of work. Memphis is known for blues. It's known for barbecue. You know, it's more of a music town, not an entertainment type acting town. And for somebody like me to go from the family that I grew up in to being the kind of person that I would have listened to as a kid is insane. So I think I'm proof that if your heart's in the right place and you follow God's will and you go in the right direction, that you'll get places that you never imagined possible.
That's fantastic.
And it'll blow your mind one day where you got to where you came from.
Love that, man. Thank you so much, John. That capitalizes. That's the cherry. That's the icing on the cake right there, guys. What he just said.
God bless you, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day. Stay well.
You too, bud.
All right. Bye-bye. That was it. So guys, his name's right here, John Bailey. Super awesome human being. Like I said, this is my second time having this kind of interaction with him, but I've been, checking out some of his stuff. Plus, you know how you know when someone's good is when other people are talking, saying good things about them. And so that's really how I stumbled across his page, was that a lot of people were saying I needed to get him on the show, and he was willing to wake up at 7 a.m. and get on the show. And John, if you're still out there, I owe you the world, man. I appreciate that. For you guys out there on the Facebook and YouTube worlds, please entertain his question and leave me feedback on who you would like to see on the show. How I can bring more value to you with the show. If there's questions I'm missing, if there's things that you want to know from people specifically, please let me know. Pretty soon on one of these episodes, I'm going to be launching another, it's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to be kicking off another show. It's going to be with, I think I mentioned it on one of these episodes already, though, but it's going to be with the hair salon that my mom has. Excuse me. Yeah, it's going to be a format very similar to this, but it's going to be real cool. So the whole thesis is going to be, to get professionals from all over the world to give advice to women and other professionals on how to not only maintain their beauty, but also how to grow their business. So it's going to be really cool. You guys stay tuned for that. By the way, anybody who takes a screenshot of this and tags me on any of your stories, Instagram, what is there? Instagram, Facebook, and you guess what was in my cup this morning, I will definitely give you a shout out and bring you on for the next show. I'm gonna start doing this more often. If you guess what was in my cup for this show this morning and you screenshot this, and you tag me in your stories, I will definitely, and you get it right, I will do something. I'll hook you up with something. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's something you can leave in the comments below. But I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, and I appreciate you guys' time. Take care.